And we are back like we never left. I know it's been a long time, but your favorite two coaches are back. Welcome to the Coach and Coach podcast. That guy right beside me, he's been on a hiatus, improving the air raid offense. But he's back, and he's back to take our team to another level. That guy right beside me, he is our offensive coordinator. That's Coach Benji. And me, still got the same defense, still gonna run the same schemes. Y'all just forgive me. I'm the defensive coordinator. I am Coach Marks, and we make up the Coach and Coach podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're following us on Facebook Live, hit that follow button. Comment. We're going to try our best to get with you. If you're following us on TikTok, make sure you hit that screen. TikTok, I know it's been a while, man. Y'all done missed out on a lot, but we are back. If you happen to miss the show, and you shouldn't miss no show, but if you missed the show, don't worry. You don't have to panic. You can always come back and find us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can go back and listen to today's show. But we are back, and, man, I think we got some stability now because I'm out of school. Coach, what's going on, man?
Man, just hanging out on what's been a wet Memorial Day weekend. It's been rainy off and on, but enjoyed some college baseball over the weekend and watched some college softball, hung out with the family, and got done a lot of researching on postseason baseball. It's been kind of chill but busy at the same time.
Well, I'm just glad to be out of school for about 2 days because if you don't know, Coach, we're going back in July. Yeah, very excited about that.
My kids are happy about that.
Who's not excited about seeing July as a start date? And I knew it was coming. They've been prepping us for this, man, but they got us, so we got to start back in July. But it's been a lot going on, man. A lot of news that we have missed out on, and I hope we've been able, through your written content and through 10 minutes with me, we've been able to cover some of the things that's been going on. But rest assured that we are back. We got to, the next time when I come back to school, we'll be in football season, and we have a pretty good, nice schedule during football season. And Coach Unn gave up some coaching responsibilities now, so next year, all of my time won't be drawn into coaching. I have shared the wealth. Unn gave it to some people. Unn gave up some things, man.
There you go.
Man, I'm trying
coming on over into the media side.
Trying to ease my way out of it, man. We a couple of things that I did, I thought we was gonna get to cover that we didn't get an opportunity to cover, but we will be able to cover a couple of things. I did talk to our Oxford High School Connect, and I told him we will be up there. He talked to me the other day about a player that they got coming in, and he was very optimistic on their season after they lost in the playoffs last year, and now they are rebuilding their team. Lost a lot of players, and a lot of high school news going on with Calhoun City rebuilding. Bruce going, they rebuilding. I don't know. I guess so. I'm not the coach out there, but you got Vardaman with a new coach, and they lost a couple of players. Bruce is returning the bulk of their lineup, and you got Water Valley. You got a lot of players. You got a lot of teams that we're going to cover, but that's in the fall, man. We'll cover that in the fall. It's summertime now. It's time to talk. It's time to talk baseball. And Coach, man, the SEC tournament was last week, and needless to say, if you are an Ole Miss fan, you were terribly disappointed when you saw the scores.
Yeah, I was talking to my wife about this. It was weird. It's felt like a weird, with the weather and everything. It's kind of felt like a weird Memorial Day weekend. We were talking about it raining earlier, and even though the kids are out of school, we've kind of been hit or miss on getting to do things because you're dodging the weather.
Yeah.
And then it also feels weird because Ole Miss wasn't around, on Friday or Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah. It was an early exit from the SEC tournament. So it's a weird feeling week. But, it's a team that I think for some guys, maybe it's a blessing in disguise. I think from a pitching staff standpoint, You got a really good starting rotation. You know, that's obvious. You've got some really good high leverage bullpen pieces. That's obvious, but you don't have your like back of the bullpen depth. That can go out, pitch you 2 innings in a tight ball game, and kind of keep you either in the fight or you know minimizing and keeping your lead. So they don't have a ton of those arms. So throughout a conference schedule where you're in a ton of high leverage situations, it may be good that they've had a chance to get a week to rest, especially when I think that starting rotation is going to determine how far uh, this team goes.
Well, Coach, I know you was following it a little bit closer. I have been in award season. That's one of the perks of being an athletic director. You got to go to all of the awards, and you have to do different things on your own. So I've been in award season the last couple of weeks. But one of the things that you touched on, you talked about the whole season, is that it was feast or famine. It's home runs or strikeouts. And what did you see in the Missouri game? And should we be worried? And we'll look into this Lincoln region in just a second. But what did you see in the Missouri game? What happened? And is it fixable?
No, I think that, I mean, they are what they are. Like, um, the way they pitched the Missouri game is kind of you're coming off a weekend and you're playing on a Tuesday. You're not going to go throw your weekend. You're not going to go out and try to throw your uh, weekend guys early in the week. You're not going to mess with their rotation. So you just saw a situation where you threw in like a fourth starter. You kind of saw what it would look like if, say, Ole Miss gets thrown into the losers bracket early and then claws its way back. What it looks like in that game 4 scenario, and you just didn't have enough pitching in key situations. Offensively, you did enough. Now the thing that concerns me, and so that would concern me from a regional situation. If you get into those fourth game scenarios, you have an offense that's kind of a roller coaster. I've tried to write stories on uh, what this what this team does, like how they've continuously improved throughout the season or regressed. And to me, it's not. You have guys who have kind of came on at certain parts of the season. You've had guys that's cooled off. Um, the lineup's not hit 1 through 9 consistently, and I don't think it's going to. I think like you said, it's feast or famine, and a lot of that's due to chasing the 3 outcomes, where the three, the analytical side of baseball now, where um, you can strike out, walk, hit a home run. That's the 3 big important outcomes. So you're striking out more, uh, you're hitting more home runs, but you're not hitting balls in the gap. You're not putting balls in play that force errors on defenses. And I think that when you do that, the variance of outcomes widens. And I think that's why when I look at this team, uh, you can say, man, it's shocking that they got beat by the a team that hadn't won
Oh my gosh.
a game in the conference tournament since 2017. And that's where I would say, well, I mean, you really don't know what you're getting with this team from day to day. So is it really that shocking? And I think that's, looking at them right now, it's just kind of I could make a case where they get 3 quality starts out of Hunter Elliott, Taylor Rabe, Cade Townsend, because Taylor Rabe's been excellent since he's been thrusted into a starting position. And then I could make a case where they pitch it okay, but you know they're in a tight game down the stretch. Hudson Calhoun or one of those bridge arms, doesn't have his stuff that day, and you don't know really 1 through 9. You just don't know what you're going to get the next inning. That's kind of it. They could go explode for 5 runs, or they could go 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts and in the inning, and any outcome in between. It's a team that's hard to it's kind of hard to pinpoint because you don't know what you're getting offensively with them.
Well, I mean, one of the things is that obviously the tournament didn't really drop them. I don't think they put them in a bad region and to be a number 2 seed. But it's one of those situations where the tournament can't kill you, but it prevented you from being, because I do believe if Ole Miss would have got to the Final Four of the SEC tournament, they would be hosting. It would be hosting, and
Yeah, that I think if you ever want to know what the committee thinks of the tournament again, just look at the run that Arkansas went on, you know, and they end up not hosting. So
yeah,
I think if anything, it's kind of how you got to look at a baseball season too. Is it's a dance. Like every game, how you manage one game on a Friday night, it determines what's going to happen on Saturday, and then what's going to happen on Sunday. Every it's a long season, and um, this team, they've done some nice things. I go back and think of like the 22 team where it just felt like they found the pitching staff late in the year. They found the right rotation, and it just kind of clicked. And from there on, the offense quit pressing and things. It kind of figured itself out. And with this group, man, I don't know. I think that you talk about, like I said, variance earlier. Uh, Everything kind of works itself out with that long season, and they went 15-15. But man, they were probably, you think about a game that got away from them at home against Georgia.
yeah.
Um, you know, they had a game at Alabama that got away from them. They were probably one regular season win away from, without a doubt, being a host.
Well, this is Ole Miss 27th time in the region. Um, there's not too many times that they've been on the road in a region. And when you look at the matchup, you got Nebraska is Nebraska is the number 1 seed. They're hosting. Ole Miss is the number 2 in that region. You got Arizona State, who's number 3, and you got South Dakota, who is number 4. Um, just tell me, just historically, under Mike Bianco, what has been the trend as far as home regions and away regions with Mike Bianco, not just Ole Miss, but just with him?
Well, the national championship run came from they went through the road.
Oh,
Went
that
through
year that I
Miami.
never doubted. Yeah,
Yeah, that year you never doubted.
I never doubted.
Had to convince me, guys. That's how it went. Now, don't get it twisted. That's exactly how it went, right, Coach? You had to
Yeah,
convince me.
yeah, I had to convince
Yeah,
you, man. You was jumping off. You was throwing away your Ole Miss stuff. I was like, hold on, man. Hey, I was like
right.
Aaron Rodgers. Relax,
Yeah, I hear
relax.
you. But no, you know, uh,
It just
they
when they made that run. I mean,
that
especially
run
when they
came
got to
through the
this
road.
point, and they started hitting their strides at the end. Um, I don't. This is not a backing into the tournament. I don't see it that way. But it's also not a hopping into your stride either.
Right.
And they had that mantra, once the Rebels get rolling, and they literally lived that. And I don't feel that same type of vibe going into this region. And for the most part, it seemed like crap. We just blew an opportunity.
I mean, this team feels like a roller coaster. Like, I mean, it looked like you were headed up in February, and then it dipped in March, and then it went way high in April, and then May. It's just kind of gradual. It's not been a steep slump, but they've just kind of flattened
Do
uh,
do you would you
over the
could you
month
all
of
right? Let me
May.
ask you this: Do you think a lot of people, when it comes to baseball, the transfer portal? What people don't understand about baseball, they've been transferring in baseball a long time. This is nothing new. If I'm not mistaken, baseball was the only one that didn't have a real severe penalty when kids transferred. Do you think because of the focus on the transfer portal now is that you just don't have those experienced guys in there to be like, hey, we've been through this, y'all calm down. And the reason why it's so, up and down is because you got so much inexperience in the clubhouse.
No, I mean this group's experienced now. Like Udomark's been
Well,
around the
as
program
far
for a
as
long
as
time.
far as as far as Ole Miss baseball, being together. Do you
Yeah.
think
Well,
that play an issue?
yeah. Potentially, you know, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say that as much as I think the biggest deal with this team is the fact that they're overly home run dependent. Like that launch angled swing to where, like I wrote a story about how um Tristan Bassetta went through like a 0 for 30 something streak with like 15 strikeouts. And I think teams figure out how to pitch you when you're looking to pull the ball out of the yard and hit home runs. And these teams have all this technology and tape and stuff to break you down and figure out how to pitch you. You got to be able to make adjustments. And I think that you know Ole Miss is not this style of baseball. You do make some adjustments as far as like, okay, they're getting me. I'm trying to pull the ball out of the yard. They're getting me low and away, and I'm rolling over it, or I'm swinging, missing, and striking out. So the approach is I got to see it up. I can't, if I see it down out of his hand, I know this is not my pitch. I've got to maximize, for this approach to work at the plate. I have to maximize my pitch. Like I have to wait on my pitch, and I have to hit it out of the yard. And if you can't stay with that approach, and you swing and miss, and you chase pitches, runs don't happen because you're not putting the ball. Most of the time, it's a weak ground ball or it's a pop out. You're not hitting balls into gaps where you're forcing defenses to chase that down, make the diving play, or hitting it hard into a gap where that shortstop's got to range over and make a play. And then the fact that you're so pull heavy, you get the shift, and when you're not beating the shift, that's trouble too. So I think it's more. I think just the roller coaster of it all is the fact that you don't see a progression through an approach at the plate. So one weekend you may see really good pitching and the offensive production ain't there. And then some weekends the guy can't hit his spot. He leaves a pitch over the plate 3 times and 3 different Rebel hitters hit it out of the park. And I think that's just it's just dependent. It's a match. They are a matchup dependent team. And, they're going to face some really good pitching Friday night from Arizona State. And, we'll be back later in the week to preview some of that. But I think that's kind of where the roller coaster of the season comes from for them.
Well, I sure hope we don't get an 8-0 lead going into the ninth inning and blow it and lose the game. I don't know if you had an opportunity to watch the softball game against Texas Tech. I painfully watched as it kept unraveling, and I even had to try to convince my mom. I said, "Okay, they're back up. We're good. They're going to win it." And then they still found a way to lose the ball game and rallied and came back and was able to play in the regional championship against Texas Tech. But then Texas Tech said, well, you know what? Let us show you how to not blow a lead. And they commenced to beating the brakes off of us. Good season for softball. You hate to see it go down like that because what people don't understand that, baseball is a slow moving sport, and that means when momentum shifts in baseball or softball, then it kind of lingers.
Yeah.
It lingers. It's not like basketball when you just somebody go on a 10-0 run, you can recover to call a timeout. Football is just softball and baseball. When somebody go on a run, it lingers, and I think them blowing that lead against Texas Tech lingered. They were able to recover because they was more talented with the other game, but once they came back to Texas Tech, it was PTSD. This is the
It's
team.
them. It's
Yeah.
some serious sports, man. If I'm gonna have to turn around and play you again, I'd rather you just beat me to where all I can do is say I can't even remember. It was so bad.
Because
I
if you
can't
win,
remember
you
again.
gotta play them again.
Right.
So it's
Don't
just
break my heart. Make me forget about it and move on. Don't make it. Sit around and linger.
well, the run begins. You don't, and the thing is, you don't have the captain in your clubhouse, so the run begins for Omaha once again for the Ole Miss Rebels and Southern Miss and Mississippi State. 3 Mississippi teams are representing in the NCAA's this year. So good times for the state of Mississippi. But Ole Miss, man, have been really newsworthy in the last month. I don't know if anybody unheard that some things are going on at Ole Miss, but I think we can kind of touch on some things. The NCAA has confirmed, well, ESPN has confirmed that the NCAA has begun their investigation on Ole Miss for tampering. Coach, you know that's a lot I want to say about this, but I'm gonna let you take the lead on that, and I'm just gonna bite off the sandwich that you make.
Yeah. How do we got to recap everything again,
Recap
or
because there's some people that may unforgot and they ain't been watching.
I'm
They've been
late to the
watching
party?
TMZ. They
Uh,
haven't been watching ESPN.
so what was this? Thursday or Friday when ESPN broke it. But anyway, um, you go back to January in the transfer portal. Luke Farrelly, transferred from Cal to Clemson.
And
Uh,
coach, I'll say this: he better have 110 tackles for me to be going through all this. But go ahead.
yeah, right.
Somebody tell him
Oh,
he better have 110 tackles. Got me going through all this stress.
but anyway, he comes to Ole Miss on a visit prior to the Fiesta Bowl. It was right before the Fiesta Bowl, and at that time, T.J. Daugherty was still a member of the Ole Miss Rebels, and it was uncertain what his future held. There was no announcement if he'd be back at Ole Miss or if he'd be elsewhere. And as we all know, he went on to join Lane Kiffin at LSU.
We'll get to that in a
Um,
second. But go ahead.
so at the time of the visit, Pete Golden, he says that we really liked Farrelly, but we, at the time had our green dot mic, which is, he wears the helmet communication system for uh, on the field, so that when Pete Golden calls in the plays, he's the communicator. He's the quarterback of the defense. So flash forward, I guess Farrelly ends up at Clemson, but Ole Miss, um, wants to find their next green dot Mike linebacker because, like we said, T.J. Daugherty's moved on.
So, in other words, it's like a player said they was going to be somewhere and told everybody's going to be somewhere, and then they changed their mind. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm going. Go ahead.
But
Sounds familiar.
so ends up at Ole Miss, and Dabo Swinney, I believe it was January the 16th, turned in text messages.
AKA sat on TV and cried like a baby. But go ahead.
Yeah, sent in documentation, photos, etc., of a $1 million contract that was sent from Pete Golding's cell phone to Luke Farrelly, and then as well as other things that I guess the NCAA would consider improper contact. Farrelly ends up at Ole Miss. Pete Golding says that he wanted to be here. We wanted him here. We're happy he's here. Clemson, has gone on to, they've not really commented on it since they.
When will our Ole Miss coaches start using burner phones? Haven't
I
we
don't know,
learned?
but,
Haven't we learned anything about using your personal phone?
But I know that I believe it was Golding, Austin Thomas, and maybe three other assistants had all their phones were, wiped and checked out or being checked out. As far as I know, everything that I've read, this is still in the early stages of being investigated. But apparently the probe was, the investigation started. The NCAA said that the day that, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is January 16th, the day that Dabo submitted the complaint, the NCAA opened the investigation. So I don't know. I don't really know where it's going because I don't know what the NCAA can actually do.
My thing, coach, and we've talked about this and for the NCAA to say, yeah, let's take up on this case, because one thing about it, coach, Ole Miss has really dominated the all-season talk from Trinidad Chambliss from Lane Kiffin. I almost called him crazy. And now the Dabo Sweeney thing. You got Steve. I almost called him something else, but I don't know why coaches keep running their mouth. But you got Stark is running his mouth in Texas, forgetting that your quarterback grandfather is very mess around and have Arch at Ole Miss. Keep running your mouth if you want to. Is just Ole Miss has been very dominant, and the thing that once again is just anytime Ole Miss is successful, we've seen this before under Hugh Freeze, the success, and then all of a sudden, all of these things start to surface, and all of these things start to come about, and it seemed like every time that there is some success in Oxford, then you get this type of treatment. You know, I really hope Keith Carter is not that fella that went to Texas A&M who just basically hung us out there to dry and just said, "Huh, NCAA, come and get what you want." And sat on the porch, and when you came back home, and like, I didn't know they took anything out of the house. I just let them in there. That's basically what he did. But where do they? Here's my thing, and this is what I hope Ole Miss is doing, and not just Ole Miss. I hope other schools are paying attention to this. If you allow this, then at that point, snitch or no snitch, I got to tell everything that has happened to me. That I've taken it, haven't complained about it, haven't went on the news, and if you think about it, everybody has been tampered with. Why is it such a big deal with Dabo? Is Luke that great that he has to come on national TV? And this is and I don't want to put that out there, but it just seemed like this is an orchestrated move directed by somebody close or used to be close to the program, because it's just very ironic that all it is. You're not finna tell me out of the 100 and so schools in division football and out of the Power 5 schools in division football, because Ole Miss didn't win the national championship last year. We got to the semifinal, but we didn't win it. We haven't historically been there. You're not finna tell me that all of a sudden this is the only school that do this, and why all of a sudden that this is the school you want to call out. You're not finna tell me that there's nobody on Clemson or that has left Clemson left just wholeheartedly. Why Ole Miss?
Well, if you want my 2 cents on it, I tried to somewhat write a story that was like, if I'm a fan of Ole Miss, do I kind of lean into this right now and say maybe this is a we arrived type of deal? Because think about it from this perspective. Dabo Sweeney's, not embraced the transfer portal, and it's a program that pre NIL was right there with.
And when he lose to LSU in his opening game, and then the talk's gonna be it's time for him to go.
Right, but there was a time when they were right there with Alabama's, Ohio State's, Clemson, just a few short years ago. The program looks different in the NIL era, and it's obvious that Dabo and them have not been active in the transfer portal. I think that the university, I'm not a Clemson guy. I'm not plugged into Clemson, but I think as the game changes and you start getting left behind, you want to get on board, right? So they're
at some point.
I think you just saw a pure case of where he said, "Okay, we've got to change something." He went to the portal and he saw how the games are played in the portal. Ole Miss has been one of the best schools in the country at how they do the portal, and they portaled Clemson, and Dabo didn't like it, turned you in. So you got turned in pretty much for being the best at what this game, because pretty much if you're going to convince players who go to school at other programs to get into the transfer portal and come to your school, you tamper. And everybody's taking transfers.
That's
Ole Miss
everybody.
and Ole Miss has been at the top. Whether Lane Kiffin was the head coach, they had been at the top of the transfer portal. They finished second with Pete Golden. I'm not saying that, we're not going to get into a separate argument of who portal's better than who, but I just think you saw a case where Dabo Sweeney and Clemson decided, hey, we're gonna give this thing a shot at Burnham, and where everybody else has been doing all this, and they're like, oh, you just go to the next guy. Um, Ole Miss got turned in, got turned in for it, and then my other thought is like I know that it seems like every time Ole Miss has kind of climbed their way out of purgatory and taken the next step, the NCAA comes. I know that in the '90s there was a situation. Before my time of following Ole Miss football, there was
Oh,
a,
Billy.
a situation, and then obviously the Hugh Freeze situation. And fans feel like every time we kind of get going somewhere, the NCAA comes and slaps us down. And then so my argument to that is, and I know that you have those feelings and they're valid because it's happened, but we're in an era now where the I don't understand if you want like what I just said, if you want someone to come get in the portal and come to your school, you had to tamper with them to get them to go into the portal.
How else
So
can you get them?
how do you punish someone when the entire model's set up to do this?
Coach, let
And
me read you
then
this.
and
Let me
then
read you this. The
go ahead,
2020,
coach.
2026, this is the ranking in the transfer portal. Got LSU number 1, Oklahoma State number 2, Penn State number 3, Ole Miss number 4, Kentucky number 5, Indiana number 6, Texas Tech number 7, Texas number 8, Notre Dame number 9, 10, Arizona State. Do you think they all just went ahead and just did it, righteously? You
Oh
telling me
no.
that nobody out of that 10 have not illegally talked to some players at times that they shouldn't have? And you're not finna tell me down there in Bayou that he talked to him on a up and up basis.
Right. I'm with you. I know for a fact that we all know for a fact
Yeah,
that
we know that one.
Ole Miss's roster was tampered with. So I'm sure that they have plenty of receipts that they could turn around and hand off. And that's the next thing that I think, if you're sitting back looking at it, okay, I'm the NCAA. I've got to investigate. This is a landmark deal. This will be the first, that I know of. Um, I think there's been some like slap on the wrist suspension stuff for talking to, you know, inappropriate contact with a player, for other coaches. But I think that just happened like out of. This is where it was like actually directly like coach to player contact. So this is kind of a landmark deal. Um, and if I'm the NCAA, I got to sit here and decide. Okay, I go make an example out of Ole Miss. Ole Miss is probably going to turn around and hand me
I am suing.
four years of stuff that they're going to file, and then if I just pretty much turn my cheek and I say, I we didn't find anything here. When they're you're in the internet world, you're in the social media world where everybody's got receipts of where they probably clearly found something. Um, so if you turn the cheek and because they're in a spot where they're trying to get control of college athletics again. So they're just not going. I just don't see them turning the other cheek.
So what
But
do they do?
I
What
think I
what
just
do you do in this situation?
I really think it's like do you suspend Pete Golding for the Charlotte game? Do you
And which
suspend
is
him
to me
for
that's still bull crap.
yeah? Do you say, hey, you're going to pay X amount of because I think the penalty, like if if Pirelli signed, because here's the whole other thing, like going back into what can they actually do? Because if to me, if Pirelli said, you know what, if the NCAA, which came in and just said Ole Miss is, suspended from college football playoff action, and they're going to lose 20% of their football budget, and their head coach is suspended 6 games. Whatever. Um, Farrelly decided to go to Ole Miss, and he decided to play at Ole Miss to try to go compete for a championship. That was his choice. So you're gonna, you know,
To
punish
me,
him. But what I'm getting at is that the courts have said like you can't limit earning potential or opportunity of a student athlete. So for you to
in
sit
no
there and
situation,
punish a university for a student athlete going somewhere where he saw a better opportunity and punishing that university, does that not limit the next guy's opportunity? So I just don't see where you can. That's what I'm trying to get at is I don't know what you can do
and the reason
because
why I said this is the number one thing that I've always talked about. I said, you don't have a collective bargaining, you don't have a salary cap, you don't have no type of real rules in place.
and that's what I
How
was
can
trying.
you pun? How can you punish something that you don't have no rule for?
That's what I was trying to get at, but I'm rambling and 10 different thoughts come into my head. But that's what I was getting at was I thought we had we were structuring these rev share agreements to where if the players wanted out of them, then Ole Miss would just pay it, and then you move on. And that was kind of how they were working their way around having some structure around the tampering. That was it. At least you're going to get your money back. So I thought that was kind of the way of having rules without having them. So that's what I was getting at. Is I don't know. I get why Ole Miss fans are extremely nervous about it, but I can't figure out what the NCAA can actually do.
And it's just like I said, it's another witch hunt for something that, like I said, they don't even have rules for, and you don't want to put no rules on it because you don't want to treat them as employees of the university.
Right.
So uh, make up your mind. You open this door, like you just said, you open this door. You open this transfer portal door. You open this door, and now you open the door without hinges. You open the door without anything, and now that the door keeps falling down just because you shut it, you didn't put no hinge on the door. So every
Yeah,
time you open it, it hits the ground.
they certainly put their cart before the horse, and it's gotten away from them. And I they're they're going to try really hard over the next, I guess, the rest of this summer. Really, I think June's when the NCAA boards get together and all this stuff. That a lot of these rules, like you had this portal period that I think a lot of colleges were like, guys, if you think we're going to keep doing this for the next 5 years, because this was really the first big go round with that rev share stuff. I think that they're really going to try to get some rules in place, but I like where do you start?
Yeah.
It just seems like it seems like it's too late to me.
Do Sankey get involved, or do he just kind of sit back and wait? And is he going to protect it? Because it's clear that the two main commissioners, which is Sankey and the Big Ten commissioner, are not big fans of the NCAA. If the
Well,
NCAA rules in a negative way, do you see him getting? Do you see them getting involved?
I mean, he could probably state his case, but I don't know. I just think we'd have to get there because I'd have to know how significant is it. How like where does that line have to be for it? Because is there a penalty that's light enough to say, hey, you know, maybe we should just take this slap on the wrist and move on because we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. Like maybe the punishments like is there a case where it's like, yeah, take this slap on the wrist and let's get out of here? You know what I'm saying? Like,
It's one of those
I
things.
don't know what
Why
it
are we
what it
back
is.
here again?
Um, I do think I think we'll know some answers to some things because the SEC spring meetings are this week, and with that, I know there's certainly I read on 3 had a thing today where Sankey was going to talk potentially about finding Kiffin and Sarkisian over. I can't think of what the bylaw is, but pretty much
You,
putting
I don't
down
know.
putting
I don't know
down
the
a
exact verbiage, but you can't speak on another university.
yeah putting down a member university. So
And both of
uh,
them did it.
I think they're trying to one. I think that's probably Sankey obviously doesn't want people talking down,
Uh,
fellow members talking down to his constituents, but
And
um,
wasn't all three on the same coaching staff? Where is the Godfather at now? Since he gives so much great advice.
yeah,
Because
and it's
here's my
weird.
thing. Here's my thing, Coach. If you were somebody that was on my coaching staff, and another coach was on a coaching staff, and y'all all play at different schools, I'm going to tell you to chill out. Don't do that. But
I
yet,
don't think it matters. I don't think it matters who says what in this situation.
but I'm just saying to not even get to that point, which takes us into this next segment. Let's go ahead and pop the
But
elephant in the room.
I'm telling you too, though. Uh, I think that I think we're I think it also goes to show in an era where you're seeing a school like Ole Miss move into that next tier. We've talked about it on this podcast how they're third since like 2021. They're third in the conference behind Georgia and Alabama in wins, and I think some of this stuff should just be worn as a compliment because get some of these shots and stuff are just like, hey, you get some of that when you're doing things right. So,
I get. I can deal with the start. I can deal with start. Hey,
and that's who I'm
yeah,
talking about. Like
yeah,
I think some of that's just part of you're in the
yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
Like
That's I can deal with. Even though he should have kept his 2 cents to himself, because what you won't do is lessen my Ole Miss degree. I know what I went through there, and I know what they offer there. So
it
you
is
can,
all. I saw.
yeah.
I wish I
Don't let
knew.
me start naming some Texas alumni. Yeah, don't get me there now.
I wish I could
Ricky
find
Williams.
uh who who wrote it, but I read it because I thought it was pretty good. Some sports writer actually got a professional basket weaver to explain the difficulty of it for Sark
First of
since he
all,
thought
every university, you're not finna tell me that every Texas player that came through Texas have been Rhodes Scholars.
yeah.
Man, get out of here. Y'all have created things just like every other university have to get the players that you get in. I don't know why people decide to go that route, but to each his own. But let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room. Let's get to it. It's what the public been wanting to hear anyway. Um, I did a 10-minute segment on Lane's comment about the University of Mississippi and his experience there. I have seen, on both sides, I have seen different commentary. I've heard former players that say, yeah, this happened to me there. And I've heard former players say, no, none of that happened at all. I saw this and I saw that. And I put out a video. And usually when I do I'm not a great social media guy, but when I'm doing content, I do like to read what's said. I like to read what comments, because sometimes I like to rebut. I like the rebuttal stuff, or I just want to hear what they thought about what I just said. Now, granted, anything else, if you waiting for me to comment on something on Facebook, anything else, you're wasting your time. But when it comes to this type of content right here, I do take my time and read the comments. And the comments, um, a lot of people, and I get it. It's hard to disassociate me with the school I went to what I went to. I went to Ole Miss, class of '99. I was an Ole Miss graduate. I can't disassociate myself from that. But at the same time, you know, the things that he said, to me, it felt like he was pulling from past situations that he wasn't a part of. And elevating it to justify him leaving. You know, I don't know why it's so wrong to just say LSU gave me more money, gave me a better opportunity. He is overselling this place. And I can say, I saw no other coach do that. Brian Kelly didn't do that. You know, no other coach that went there. He is really overselling the same way but the same way he did Ole Miss. I needed Oxford more than Oxford needed me. Oversell. I gotta sell and justify why I stayed, why I didn't take the Auburn job because she just wanted me to leave. She didn't want me to leave. My daughter wanted me to stay. You know, I want to stay for other reasons. But anyway, he has to oversell everything because he must justify all of his actions. And for somebody who tricked the public, and this is not, and like I said, I'm glad my stuff is documented. You can go back and check my stuff. This ain't no, he just mad because he left. I never liked him in the first place. So that ain't the case. I didn't like him as our coach. He was our coach. He's a great coach, but I didn't like him as our coach. And I was glad that he was gone. I enjoyed what he did for it. Just because somebody, you can like a lot, you can dislike a lot of people, but if they're going to bring you the money, you ain't going to throw the money away. You're just going to take the money. And then when he leave, I hope somebody else makes some money for me. But all that being said, it's once again, I must oversell my decision because he needs people to like him, but he don't know how to do it. I don't think he know how to get people to like him. And he just do things that don't make sense. Now, it's amazing. The reason why Ole Miss catch a bad rap, because Ole Miss's history is more mainstream and more documented than anybody else's. Because of Lane Kiffin, he caused people to research LSU that people didn't even know nothing about LSU. They didn't know what the Tiger meant. They didn't know where it came from. You open a can of worms on your own school. I mean, did you know that that's where the nickname come from?
I did.
But we started researching. All I had to see was one comment. Don't let us investigate where. And then I started investigating. It's like, oh my God. So you open up a can of worms on your own. Then you have people looking into the city of Baton Rouge, and don't let me pull up Boosie's comments. Boosie, he's well documented on how you don't hear Carlos Miller talking about he don't like Oxford. You don't see Carlos not claiming Oxford. But Boosie tell you in a minute he ain't going back to Baton Rouge. So it's just a fact. But Ole Miss history has been documented. It's been on ESPN, the James Meredith thing, all of that stuff. And it's unfortunate because Mississippi history is bad. Mississippi history is bad. But so is Louisiana. So is Florida. So is Georgia. So is Alabama. Remember, Alabama had a governor that said segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Tennessee history is bad. Texas history is bad. Oklahoma's history is bad. But it seems like Mississippi, and everybody makes Mississippi, like the flag was not an Ole Miss flag. It was a Mississippi flag. And the only reason we changed that flag, they can say what they want. They changed that flag because the NCAA said you will not host nothing as long as that's your state flag. and the legislator, because if you remember, we voted on the flag the first time and it died. It didn't even get close. They didn't even put it in our hands that time. They said we'll do it because we about to lose money. And somebody be like, well, what do we host? Okay, baseball and softball regionals, NIT. What did we just have in Oxford just in December? A playoff game that brought millions of dollars to the city of Oxford. So he took something that he knew about his 6 years there. He knew the history. He He knew what, and it's like he took that and used that. It's more like I know my you got a girlfriend and she shares all her family history with you to trust. She trusts you. My family unchanged, but this is what my dad did. This is what my mom did. This is what my sister did. This is what my brother did. And the moment you break up with her, you told everybody her secrets. She trusted you. She trusted you with her secrets. And because you're bitter, because she's no longer mad or bitter or sad that you left, you told everything that she shared with you. That's how I see this is how I see the Lane Kiffin situation. But I'm gonna let you comment, Coach.
Uh, I mean, I really don't have one. You know, I wrote about it. I think that it would have been easy. Like he gets to use the calendar sucks, and it does. He gets to use that, and he gets to use the if they would have said yes, we'd have gladly stayed together and coached it out. You know, yada yada yada, and um so on and so forth. He didn't get his way. The easiest thing would have been like, "Hey, I view LSU as a better job. I can't, there's nobody's gonna turn down LSU to stay at Ole Miss. Are y'all crazy?" And that'd have been the easy thing to do, and just to head out the door. But we're to the point now where we're what almost 7 months removed from it, and it's still
He
been a
cannot
hot
stop.
topic of conversation. So I'm ready for I'm kind of ready to move on from it because
He won't be able because he's gonna do
um
something else, Coach. He's gonna do something else. He can't help himself.
yeah. But and I think that it's also not as fun because of the investigation, the situation that it's just quiet on the Ole Miss side. You don't, it seems like all you hear is you don't hear the return
Everybody else.
defense.
But you know what? I don't think
um,
even if it was no investigation going on, I just don't think that's Pete Golden's
yeah, and I don't
deal.
think it is either, and I don't think it's something that you should partake in. But I do think that that would make it more interesting if they did. So it's making it to where it's played out.
He can
That's
hire
all I'm
me.
getting at.
He can hire me. I take shots all day long. I'm good at it.
But
I live for controversy.
but most of the time when you mention his name, uh, it generates a story to talk about and people to you know share in conversation with you. So uh, he's always gonna give you that. There'll always be a conversation. And then as far as like the comments and what they are, and I'm white. I'm not an African American, and
What?
I can't tell you what it's like to yeah, believe it or not, coach. I
Man,
know, um, but I can't tell you what it's like to be a student, or like my worried about my son being an African American student at Ole Miss someday if that's where he chooses to go. I can't, I can't comment on that because I don't experience that. But I do think that it's unfair to the university that they've clearly now whether I think two things can be true at once is that we should always strive to be better tomorrow than we were today, but that we have came a long way, and I do
yeah,
think that the university. I think if you wanted to say like, hey man, we when I was at Ole Miss, there was some people in Mississippi that I ran into. You could tell they had that vibe because anywhere you go, you're going to run into some people that got that vibe. But I do think the university itself tried to be a place that welcomes, um, or at least from my experience. Like I said, I'm white, but I feel like when I'm on campus, I want to be in a celebration with everybody. So, um, and I think that they've tried to, the university's tried to move away from what stained its image so bad in the past.
and but that image was something that was stained not just at the university, not just there. I mean, crap. Things that went on with the NCAA tournament with Mississippi State. I'm pretty sure Southern Miss got it's. We were Mississippi.
Yeah.
You know, we had a governor. There was a governor here at the time that wasn't that stood 10 toes down. Would not didn't want Meredith in there, and we got a whole reservoir named after him, and ain't nobody mad about that.
Right.
I mean, if you go investigate him, but it's just the fact that you had many coaches that come through, and you had some coaches that left in bad terms. Um, Ogeron didn't leave on good terms, but as far as recruiting, yeah, have other places been using that? Yeah, they've been using that tactic, but I don't see how Southern teams could use that tactic because every team in the Southeastern Conference have dealt with some type of racial tension in their state at some point. So um, it's just it's just you never thought a coach would go that route, and that was the thing that bothered me the most. You can understand Stephen A. saying it; that makes sense. That's just him. That's you. That's why when everybody got all up in arms because he was at Ole Miss, man, we got to get to the point where we don't get so excited because when somebody done said something, now they come and be there and we forget what they said. I could care less he was in Oxford. You said what you said because what you believe. So
Well,
I
and I think it was. I think it was. You got to look at the broader context of it too. Is like if he goes on Paul Feinbaum, or just for an example, or take any of your big time college football, especially like in the niche of the Southeastern Conference, to go do an interview, and he says something like that, they probably gonna push back. They're gonna be like, "Well, you did recruit really well at Ole Miss and lead
this
them
is
to an
easier.
11-1
This
regular
is easy.
season
You
like
don't have
that."
no rebuttal that way. That's why he did it.
So he does the interview with Vanity Fair, who I don't believe is big in the college football space. So I think it was just another way to go national with something about Ole Miss and take it to an audience. Like you just pretty much, you know, brought a lot of attention to Ole Miss in a negative sense, where around the football program, where the normal person that reads Vanity Fair, Ole Miss football would have never crossed their mind. And I don't know. When you talked about coordinated earlier, that's where I would come from. It was there something coordinated? I'm not saying they're coordinating against Ole Miss specifically. I think it's how and
I
where
don't see why it's not.
and where stuff's distributed. That's where I kind of, but
And like you just said, if this is on a national, like I said, if it's on Feinbaum, you're gonna have that natural rebuttal, and now you get to read body language, you get to see, and this was easy. You don't get to see no body language, you don't get to see a rebuttal. We don't know if the interviewer, say, hey, well, you did this, this, and this while you was there. Why did you stay? We don't know that now. They're only gonna print what's gonna sell.
I mean, and reading it, um, the writer to me
He's one of your
sounded like
favorite writers, Coach.
he didn't sound like he knew the whole story.
No, no, it's
it,
just
it
and
was
it's
pretty
just
wild.
like anything. But my thing is, like I said, a coach shouldn't go that route. Stephen A. He can go that route. All the media personnel can go that route. A coach shouldn't go that route. Shouldn't go that route, especially when you stayed there and you said you had trouble leaving. Which one is it? Which one is it? You said it was a difficult situation, Lisa. Are you a liar? Which is clear he is, but are you a liar? Because you said it was difficult leaving. This was a tough decision that you stayed. You stayed last year when you was offered a job. So which one is it?
And it's
But
weird because if you go listen to the Barstool podcast, because I went and listened to the Barstool podcast because um, I thought that you just kind of sometimes you just got to follow what he says because you never know if it's content. Like the man just creates content for you. Like he just opens his mouth and there it is. So um, when I watched it, I thought, well, if this would have been your story the whole time, because he finally was like, "Yeah, if I could do it over, I would have went in there and said, you know what, I'm leaving. It's been fun. I appreciate it." If you come out and just say that from the beginning, um, now granted, we would have been done talking about this a long time ago. We wouldn't be talking about it right now, but um, it's weird, uh, and there's no telling what could be next. It could be something completely different
I guess I
in
guess
2 weeks.
Tuberville being number one, he just had to be number one, and he has made sure that he is the number one enemy of Ole Miss because Tuberville was there. Congratulations, Tuberville. You were there for a long time, but I can tell you right now, you have been replaced. Lane Kiffin is on the Mount Rushmore of hate at Ole Miss by himself. They erase all the other people on there, and they are gone. But man, it's just we're. I don't know. The summer sometimes make me feel like we're getting close to football. We're getting close to football, and
That's hard. It's hard to believe this the end of May, Coach. Like it'll
yeah,
be here. It's gonna be here quick.
yeah, like July, I'll be here quick, and I'll be back at school, and I'll be just like I never left, like really, literally never left.
So what
Coach,
do you do? What do you do, especially in high school? Like you're gonna go to school for nearly a month and a half before you play your first football game.
yeah,
So the cat football calendar's not moving up, just the
I,
school
I don't,
calendar.
I don't think the calendar move. I can go back and usually my Dragonfly will update me. I don't think the calendar have moved. But you do know that the calendar had already moved up. We was in school a week, and by week 2, you playing a
Yeah,
classic
you're
class
right.
scrimmage game. So this I guess give them an um, extra days to practice and give them an opportunity to get acclimated. But
I was gonna
man,
say, like, how does that change your summer workouts and stuff? Because you're losing days that you had more time with them because you're gonna be stuck with a fourth. That's interesting.
well, technically, you get, most coaches, and I'm pretty sure you done got it. My son is horrible at getting me stuff. I told him the other day. I said I contacted your coach. This is my last time doing that. I said your coach need to have your number. You need to tell me what's going on.
Yeah, Braxton brought me his.
Well, at least
So
he brought you. At least he brought you something.
he's like, here's my
Mine didn't
workout
know.
schedule.
He didn't know where his was, and I had to call the coach. I said, "Would you please?" I said, "I promise you, I will not be bugging y'all, but would you send me a schedule?" Because my son didn't realize that it was important. And I said, "You do know you're not going to be in here playing video games all summer. You do know that, right? Whatever day they got listed, you're going." But just looking at the schedule, you got your typical 4 weeks in June, and you got July, and then typical dead week is whenever the clinic week, and usually, you know, back when I was with Coach Ray, we ramped it up. We did 3 days in June, and then when you get to July, go to 4 days to kind of get you ready. And by the time we'll get about 3 weeks. So instead of now, I don't know what it's going to affect. I know in Calhoun County School District, teachers, we come back the third. We actually we report back to work the fourth week or somewhere close to the third. I don't know. It's close to the third week that we come back, and then school starts that 31st. So
Mm.
I don't know, you know, how much it really affects their calendar, but I'm thinking that football officially starts on the 29th. I gotta check those dates. Somebody in the chat help me out, but I think football in Mississippi starts officially either the 27th of July or August the 3rd. I don't know which one it is, but and I don't think they're going to be too different. I know one of the things, I know a lot of coaches get bugged out because of this. I know in Calhoun County, fall break is a whole week now. Is matter of fact, it's a week and a day for the students. They get a full week and that Monday, and you know for yourself how difficult it is to get kids to come to practice. But, I've been doing basketball for over 15, 16 years. And until you don't have to deal with a 2-week Christmas break, holler at me then, because you have to deal with 2-week Christmas break where you're trying to get kids out there as many times as you, and God forbid you got a game going on. I don't think, and then baseball have to deal with spring break. Baseball and softball have to deal with spring break. So everybody got their breaks that they got to deal with. Once again, it just come to if the kid want it. If the kid want it, then the kid gonna be there. Y'all group, they didn't have to come chase y'all down. Y'all had to deal with Labor Day. That's probably one reason I don't coach anymore, because Labor Day, I always wanted that day off. And every time I look up, crap. And especially when you're on lost. I remember Coach Ray gave us Labor Day off one time. And I was so shocked. I said, yeah, he must be crazy. I was so shocked and happy. But we didn't get no more days after that one. So, man, it's just the whole shift, and eventually, even around here, it's going to be all year round eventually. I know when they proposed it to us years ago, it died in legislation. That means all the teachers voted no, except me, because I kind of seen what they was trying to do, because every 9 weeks you get like a 2-week break, and I was like, I like that. But when it comes to football and all the other sports, it's just trying to figure out a way to navigate through it. And, you know, we don't know how the heat going to be. One of the major things that we run into in that time is heat index. I can't even think of the name of it.
The wet bowl.
Wet bulb. You got to check that. That's one thing that I was constantly, on, like, get off the field. Get off the field. It's too high, and you don't want to get to a point where you don't want to be that school. You don't want to be that school that happens to. So definitely during that time, you really want to be careful and aware. But didn't really hear much on the spring football sector. I was at the Bruce game, obviously, and just you didn't really hear a lot of noise. Council City, Water Valley, Okolona, and I think somebody else was in there. Jamboree. Really haven't heard a lot from the spring. With and even on the camp sector, the 707s and all of that, you're really not hearing much. But hopefully we'll be able to keep you guys posted on some high school stuff. We're gonna do a little bit better in high school. I know it looked like we just neglected high school. You see what we did, Coach? We used high school to get going, and we just left them. We quit dealing with high school. We apologize. We're gonna do better this year. We're gonna do better this year. But Coach, we're still waiting on that. He told me to contact. I don't want to put the name out yet. Once we get that interview secure, you know the name, but I don't want them to know yet. I want that to be a surprise. But I am going to contact him this week to lock in the day, and we're going to sit down and have an interview with a very special guest. But Coach, the interviews, a lot of people, and I hope we could just find a day that's just dedicated just to that, because a lot of people. I was more amazed that people. I thought the Fred, which we had to break down into the two parts on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, but everybody was very intrigued with Tay, and I was like, and a lot of people talk how informative MD was, and just it was the stories with Fred. Everybody loved the stories. And that's
Right.
it's hearing the stories and hearing the journey and hearing MD talk about the NFL and the NFL locker rooms and I hope we can get Migo, if you listening, man, I hope we can get him just to get, those perspectives, because, we got a lot of kids that come from our area that don't think that's possible. And if we can give them an opportunity to hear people and put them in the face of people that undone what they think is impossible to do, then Coach, we done our job, man. So, but the interviews that we do have, man, they were fun, and just the stories and everything. But what would you say was probably I ain't gonna say the best interview, but what was the best moment out of those three interviews that you don't have to think about? It's just this.
Mm, that's tough. I kind of liked how you. I think my favorite thing because it was the easiest was you give Fred Thomas just a little bit of something and he could run with it. He could
Yeah,
give you a great story. And then I think kind of getting to highlight the kind of man that MD is and the integrity he has. I think it's another high point. And then
make you forget he from Cow City, man. It just
yeah, and
it
then I
makes it.
think for for Tay, for me with Tay, just I've known him my whole life and still learning something about someone I've known forever. I think uh, that's what made that great, and that you know he clearly is a a key part of the next generation. I
Yeah,
think passing on
he's the bridge. He's the
his
bridge.
skill set, right? Passing on his skill to the next group. I think that being able to he would be more than welcome if one person got on here that listened that needed to hear from someone like a Tay. That means he's more than welcome to join us here anytime.
Yeah, I think the one thing about Tay is just the fact what he just finding out he was last on the depth chart was something that coach I didn't even know that. I
Right.
didn't
So
even
that's
know
what I'm saying. You hear stories you had no
and
idea, and
and I had talked to Rashad about it. Rashad was like, "Yep, that's what happened." Didn't know nothing about that, and just to hear MD how he can just go into a space where, man, I'm about to give you something that you need, and then he can go back to just being the fun guy that I know, but he really know how and like I said, Fred, man, there's so many stories that he have and just his journey was just pretty amazing. So we do want to continue being able to have that side of our platform as well. And Coach is still writing daily. And man, I know this is the rough time of the year right now, but long
yeah,
they got
especially
down
when
south.
you're trying to preview the postseason. The baseball team gets put out the first day of the SEC tournament. You're trying to preview the football season, and nobody's really talking about anything at Ole Miss. It's just quiet, buttoned up ship. Um, but nah, it's great. And I encourage everybody to go check it out. Ole Miss on SI, or the Sports Illustrated page for Ole Miss. I know, and I'm not the only one writing, but I since May 1st, I think I have 32
That's all I'm
different
gonna focus
pieces
on.
out. So
The
there's
best,
plenty of
the
do
best writer.
what?
I'm just gonna focus on the best writer.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there's plenty of content there. Baseball, football, recruiting, basketball. There's something for everybody, and we look to own the narrative around Ole Miss athletics. So encourage anybody and everybody go check that out.
Coach, before we get out of here, man, have you totally left WWE, or have you been able to watch some of the matches and I can say I've been disappointed in a lot of things, but that's WWE for you.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Coach. I have not. I've tried to really invest in the NBA playoffs. The St. Louis Cardinals are really fun right now, and I want to enjoy that while they're still fun.
Until All
Um,
Star break.
right. Um, so and then following Ole Miss, I just have not. I actually thought about. I looked at the clock up here in the corner of my screen and was like, could go turn that on and call it a day here in a minute.
Well,
So
Coach, man, I know we got a couple of events coming up. You got the NBA Finals coming up soon. You got the WWE, you got Clash in Paris or whatever going on. They have a pay per view every year. But Coach, I looked at Raw is coming to Birmingham September the 7th. So If you want to
tickets are $3,000.
if you want to send Coach and Coach podcast to Raw September the 7th, I'm going to put the Cash App down. Y'all can donate to us and you can get us to Raw so we can give you good content, man. They don't give out free tickets to up and starting podcasts. Y'all got to help us get there. So we're going to put that out there so y'all can help us get to Raw. Coach, is there anything else we need to cover, man?
Do you want to come back Thursday?
Let's come back Thursday, Coach. Let's come back Thursday.
Okay, Thursday.
Because it's the region start Friday.
Right.
So let's come back. Let's come back Thursday and let's preview that, and we can go over some NBA stuff. Because most likely, if the Knicks do what they're supposed to do tonight, and they're gonna sweep the Cleveland Cavaliers, time for you to go and get LeBron, Cleveland. Bring him back. Well, if nothing else to hold our attention, man, that guy right beside me, he is our offensive coordinator. I am the defensive coordinator. We make up the Coach and Coach podcast. Make sure that you hit that follow button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Follow us. Catch this episode tomorrow on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast. Until Thursday, not next Thursday, but this Thursday. Until Thursday, y'all stay easy. That guy right beside me is the coach. I'm the coach, and we make up the Coach and Coach podcast. We'll see you on the next one.